Aloha. This is a short screencast where I want to talk about a very common design pattern, particularly for home pages. And I call it color blocking. I don't know if there's another technical term for it, but I've always called it color blocking. And here's one site that illustrates it where you have the menu, it's white, and then you have a full width block of color. Actually, it's kind of like got a gradient here, which is kind of cool. And then you have another section which is a color, white background in this case, and then you have another section which is yet another background color, and then the font is, a reversed font so that it contrasts. Okay, so I call this color blocking because the background color is used to indicate what the different sections of the page are. Here's another site by this Inertive company that I saw. It's fairly cool actually if you look at it. The first section is this kind of visual thing, and then it's got another intermediate section in white with these other things, and then it's got another section with a blue background, another section with kind of this crazy concrete background, and then it's got a section with like 4 different backgrounds, followed by another section in blue, and then the bottom footer is in black. Okay, so this is a little more advanced thing, but it's still that same kind of idea of using the background color to set off the different regions of the page. So the question is, how do we do that? And it's actually like super simple, at least to do the kind of the more standard ones, and you can make it more complicated without much problem as well. To illustrate it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Semantic UI Hello World, which you've seen. If we display it in the page, it looks like this, right? There's like nothing going on here. So I'm going to use this because it's so simple to kind of illustrate how you do this. And what I really recommend you do is have a style sheet for this. You could do it without it, but that would be kind of lame. So we'll create a style sheet, and then inside our index.html, we have to, of course, include it. So we'll put it in there, and then we're going to just define we'll define 2 classes: a gray background class, and the idea here is that we'll say the background color is going to be something grayish. How about light gray? You can get all fancy with this if you want, but and then we'll have some kind of white background, and you have blue background, whatever you want, and again you have the background color, and then white background. How about white smoke? That seems like kind of a interesting one. Okay, and then the trick is that we want these backgrounds to be outside any of the container classes in Semantic UI, because remember, those container classes kind of create margins, and so we want this to be full width. So the design pattern is that you're going to have a div where you say class equals gray background, okay, and then inside there is where you are going to have a container and then your stuff. Okay, so let's just copy this. And we'll make this one white. Oops. White. Whoops. White. And we'll make this one white. So there's a contrast. Okay, so now if we preview this in Chrome, we get this, which starts to look right, but actually it's not as nice as you might want it to be. So we can do a tiny little change to make it look a little better, and that is to add in a height attribute. Let's say 200 pixels, and we'll add this here. Okay, just so that it looks a little more presentable. So you get something like this. Okay, and in fact, if you have good content, maybe you don't need that height value, and maybe having a fixed height isn't always the greatest thing, but at least it's at your disposal here to get something that looks a little more like like that. I don't know, does it look like that? Not too much, but you get the idea. You're well on your way, hopefully, once you see this general design pattern. Okay, so that's color blocking. Have a good time with it. It's usually best for home pages, not really interior pages, but it's a good tool to have in your toolkit.